Okay, I'm back. I just posted a video, well, we'll see if it posts, about remembering the pandemic and the shutdown in 2020 and how it feels so similar and all the spiritual experiences I had. And I had the experience where I saw John in the sky, and that was April 2nd, 2020. And that I'd seen him in other various ways before that, but that was just such a big experience for me. It really opened me up. And I remember after that, I was like, you know, it's like when you have those things happen, it really does change you. I really began to delve into why I'd always felt John around me my entire life and what it meant. And I don't know, I just, so anyway, it started me on the journey of who was I? Who was I in John's life? And he's always made me feel, now I know, and I've asked some psychics, but you know, we're not always right. I have to say that. We're not always right. And, you know, I've asked psychics, well, was I his mother Julia? Because that honestly would make so much sense. That's what he's made me feel, like I was his mother Julia and or Alma Cogan, who he felt Alma was his mother Julia. So I can see how that would be like a combo of like twin, not twin soul, but kind of like a combined, could be a walk-in, I don't know. And I know some psychics don't believe in walk-ins, but for my guides, I've been told that it's a real thing and that it's almost happened in my life quite a few times. But yeah, it was his mother Julia. And so I just had a journey of why would John imprint himself on the floor, on the wall, on the ground outside, in the clouds? I've seen him in so many various ways in the light. And I don't know if you guys, I've tried to say it's not just about me and John, and certainly I'm not the only one John's ever talked to, but this is a very specific connection that I have with John. It's my connection. It doesn't have to mean anything else to any, it doesn't take away from anyone else's connection to John. Okay, I would never do that. And you know why? Because if someone took away my connection to John and said it meant nothing, I would be sad. I would be very sad, and I have been sad over that. And I feel like there's many people who have had connections to John, and I'm happy for them. And so, but this is my story. So when I talk about it, I'm not taking away anyone else's connection to him or meaning. This is my story. And I do feel like John and I, because he's made me feel it, he's the one that's given me all these signs and symbols and synchronicities. So, you know, I always felt like I narrowed it down to I was his mother Julia. That would make sense for all the connection I've had to him my entire life, and seeing him in spirit and having such a close, and the fact that he's been with me so much every day of my life. And it's just weird. We have such a weird connection, like to wake up in the morning and think of him all day and at bedtime. And then, and some people say twin soul, twin flame, whatever it is. It's weird. So tomorrow, March 12th, is Julia. It's Julia Stanley. She was born Julia Stanley, married Alf Lennon, John's father. And so her birthday was March 12th. And what's funny is I didn't know that. My ex, his birthday is March 11th. And so that March 11th was like, okay, my ex's birthday. And then a couple years ago, my daughter was like, let's go make a cake. And not for her father's birthday. Nope. It was the next day, March 12th. It had nothing to do with her father's birthday. She's like, I want to make, so we go to the store, and I'm like kind of getting impatient with her. Like, why is she taking so long doing all these things, trying to make this perfect cake? And then we come home and she makes the cake. She has one piece of it. And then her and her brother go to her dad's house for the weekend. And I'm left with this huge birthday cake. And it's like, happy, or no, she didn't write happy birthday, but it was just like this, a birthday cake, but it wasn't for her birthday. It was for nothing. It was a cake just that she wanted to make. So they go to their dad's house, and I'm left with this entire cake. And I'm like, what? And then if something, this is how spirit works, something pops on my phone and it says Julia Lennon's birthday, March 12th. And I think, huh, that's interesting. An entire cake. And then, okay, so like when it's my birthday, practically nothing happens. I feel lonely. I feel sad. Like, I feel like spirit abandons me on that day. I'm like, what is going on with this? And during the pandemic, I really felt that. I was like, what? Why is there no sign or feeling of spirit around me? But then every year on March 12th, Julia Lennon's birthday, I have something from John, like he imprints his face on the floor, or he freezes the TV, and when I walk by, it's a message from him. This is like Julia, which is his mother's name was Julia, or a song like that one year when I walked by and it was, oh Julie, and I was like, huh, that's interesting. Julia's birthday and their song, and then right after started up the Beatles, 8 days a week. And it froze. And that's how you know. So I don't know, just interesting how it's every year on her birthday stuff happens, and I just saw 606. And my birthday, practically nothing happens. Stuff happens on his birthday, on John's birthday, October 9th. So I don't know, it's interesting. So numbers, okay. I wanted to get to this story. So I work at a restaurant, a theater restaurant, and we have all these rows, and the rows are like the row number and the table number. So and John that has sent me for years now, I've recognized the numbers that John sends me are 909 and like 9091, but 909, 606, and then 117 or 711, and those add up to 9, and his number was 9. But those are the numbers he sends to me: 909, 606, 117, or 711. So I work at a theater, and people walk up to you with tickets and they say 909. Like, oh, okay. And so I think it was on Valentine's night. I was feeling kind of sad because, you know, didn't have a Valentine, no card, no flowers, no candy, nothing, no date, nothing. And that night at work, I had to work, and everybody comes in, there are dates, and there's flowers, there's roses on every table. And this person walks up to me, 909, and I seat them, and it said at their table, Amy, on the card. It said Amy, at 909, and I was like, okay. And then the next table, literally the next person I seated, their ticket said 606. And then I walked back to the lobby, and the next person walks up, and it's 117, and then the next one was 711. So all the numbers that John would send me were there, bam, 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 on Valentine's Day. And I think it was like that night or the next night. I think it was the next night. I saw a woman walked in with her husband, and she had a 1940s dress, and her hair was 1940s, and I got to seat them, and I looked at her in my mind. I thought, Julia, that looks like John's mother, Julia. I've had this happen before, but this was very specific. Seeing her up close in the hair and the 1940s clothes, and I just thought, that's what Julia looks like. That's Julia. It was so weird. It was uncanny. I mean, what are the odds that someone would look like her, and I would have that thought in my head just out of nowhere, and then that they would have a 1940s dress on? It was uncanny. And then a little bit later, a woman walked by, and from behind I thought, oh, that looks like my mother. And it wasn't Mother's Day. It was just something. It was just, I don't know. Things are lining up in the universe. So anyway, but it has to do with mothers. Do you see my point? It has to do with mothers. And if you know, like the whole twin flame, twin soul thing, I've talked about this before, but you can be someone's lover in one lifetime, and then the next lifetime you are their mother or their father or their sister, their daughter, their friend. But you're just, and you're usually not together in lifetime very much. And the reason for that is because you learn better with one on the other side, and on the other side they're your support as you get through your life, like your guide. But when you're together, it's very torrid, and it's a lot of like unrequited love. So it actually works better, unfortunately, when you're not together in the lifetime. And unrequited love is really almost a better, higher love. It's very sad and lonely, but it's a better, you learn a lot more. And the only reason we're here on earth is to to learn how to love on a deeper level. That's really all we're here for. Well, and to protect the earth and each other, you know, from all that. But anyway, I'll leave it at that. I just wanted to put those. Oh, and the other thing was, I think it was Valentine's, and I was like, in my mind, not out loud, I said, John, send me a rose, because he's done this before. Send me a rose. Well, it took a few days, but I went to the park, and then this was on the ground at the park. And then my daughter came home from, she was doing a play in town, like a little community play, and she did great. And she brought home a rose and another rose and another rose, and I was like, okay, John did that. Okay, oh, here's something. Last week I tested John again, and I said, John, in my mind, not out loud, I said, John, what symbol do you want me to find if you're around? And I got the image of a frog. I was like, I don't know, but I kept getting the image of a frog. I tried to change, I literally tried to manipulate it into, like, I said, well, what about grapes or something like that? It's like, no, frog. So I take my dog for a walk, and we're walking at the park, and he wants to take a different route than usual. We never, ever, literally ever take this route. So we take this different route at the park, and lo and behold, right in front of me is a frog. It's like, okay, so I take a picture of that, and then later that day, online, I see a picture of two frogs. And then another frog, and then another one, and I'm like, okay, this is interesting. So he's the one that wanted, I don't know what that means, but he's the one that wanted to show it to me. I could go on and on about this. This is gonna bore. This is only for people who are interested in this stuff. And then my next video will be about politics. So thanks for watching. Bye.